When it comes to the emission piece, obviously there's no silver bullet in terms of technology today, but then you have like a lot of low-hanging fruits, like slowing down your vessel, doing a lot of optimization work, right? Like making sure the routes you sort of are effective. Do you feel like from Golden Ocean perspective, those long-hanging fruits, have you taken all them, or are there loads of opportunities to cut down a little bit by tuning all the time? Or do you feel like in Golden Ocean you have seen, or you've taken most of those opportunities, and now it's more a technology play, finding that technology?
I think that if you look at the ship owning model, just take one step back, then we have always been forced to be low cost providers. And for instance, here in Golden Ocean, we have almost 100 vessels. So we have economies of scale in our own right. That has allowed us to push down our cost. But we are now so large that there's not a lot more to come from here. So where we see the next big push on cost is through digitalization and in turn actually decarbonization. So and this is important to remember, when you reduce emissions, you reduce your bunker consumption and you reduce your cost. So for 2 years actually, since I started, we have had a 3-pillar strategy, like 3 areas that we want to focus on. And one of them is digitalization and decarbonization. So we are working very intensely on bringing down our emissions, because it's good for the environment and it is also good for the company. And we are kind of looking at this, and there are different timelines here, because there are the low-hanging fruits, as you are mentioning, and then there are the medium and the long-term solutions. We have not plucked all the low-hanging fruits yet, but we are doing that. So what you can do, and what we are doing now, for instance, is that we are digitalizing, meaning that we get much better data into our IT system. So we have installed, or we have not installed on the entire fleet, but we are rolling out now. I think we have on 1/3 or something, and we will have all vessels equipped with sensors at the end of the year. It means that we get data directly fed into our IT systems, meaning that we can monitor performance much better. So we are not in the dark for a long time before we know there's something wrong with the vessel. Normally you get data every 24 hours, which is a bit absurd in this modern day and age, but that's actually how it has been. Now we get every 7th minute. And then we do, investments into the fleet. So it is some investments you can do outside dry dock, but others you will have to do in connection with a dry dock, where you take the vessel out of the water and you can do a lot of stuff. It's easier when it's out of the water. So what we are doing now is that we are investing heavily in all vessels that go into dry dock. So what we are doing, for instance, is that we are blasting the hulls much more efficiently to make them smooth. We are applying low friction paints, very special paints, so that there's less drag on the vessels as they go through. We are investing in special propeller vortex, so that you get better, your propeller works better, and you get better, speed through the water and lower consumption. So we invest heavily into this, and we actually believe that we can lower bunker consumptions and thereby emissions with low double digit, maybe 10 to 12%. So these are no-brainer investments that we just need to get on with. Then we look at more advanced technologies as well, which are not for today, but for the future. We are looking at, among other things, carbon capture, where you install you simply capture the carbon before it goes up in the air. There are some challenges with that, but you can potentially remove up to 95% of your emissions by doing that. Then we are looking at maybe less revolutionary things, but we're looking at something called speed opt, which is it's actually, you can compare it to an autopilot for a car, because if you have a vessel that is going through the water at a constant speed, if you have wind against you or whatever, you will actually burn more than you should Whereas if you keep a constant speed, it's better. So by having these technologies optimizing your speed, you can save bunkers and so on. I mean, there's rotor sails as well, and so on and so forth.
I was about to ask to that because obviously you are from Denmark, right? And you see Maersk trying everything, and sometimes it's hard to know. Like, I wouldn't call it a PR stunt, but sometimes you do something to show you this could work, but it's not always it makes economic sense to scale it up in a big, shipping company. But given you've seen they try rotors and sails, do you see anything that you think is like the perfect solution, or is it more about experimenting just to test it in one vessel at a time?
I think for us, at least, it's about experimenting and testing because we often see that companies promise a lot of, bang for the buck, and then maybe it's not really the case when it happens, or when you put them on. So I think you have to, and then you also have to remember that every vessel is different, so there can be different solutions that fit different types of vessels depending on their size and the trading area. And I mean, it's complicated stuff. But generally speaking, we have to be open-minded towards these new solutions, and we have to be ready also to invest. Are there elements of PR in some of this? I'm sure there is for Maersk as well as for us. But at the end of the day, we are doing it because we believe we can bring down cost, and that we can take our companies in the right direction. And as I say, yes, there's going to be different solutions for different times, and the end goal must be zero emissions. And of course, speaking about that, you cannot talk about new engines or new technologies, whether that's ammonia or hydrogen or something else. But we are not going to go out guns blazing with things that we are not sure about working. So I think we'd rather go a little bit cautiously, and then as we see technologies maturing, we will try those out as we see track records from other companies. But it is key to be on the forefront here and to be open-minded. And I think that's something that the industry needs to get used to, because it's not exactly shipping is not an industry known for its innovation, let's be honest, but that is changing now, and it has to change, and it's a good thing.
Is this a topic top of mind when you talk to investors, clients, etc.? Are they pushing you on this, all meetings, or very conscious about it?
Yes, I mean the ESG agenda in general has really increased in the last 24 months for sure. So we are usually asked about our strategy on decarbonization. I think at the moment, maybe very few will actually determine their actual investments after this. But I know that they are happy to see that we are working actively towards this end goal, because we know we're going to have to transition our business model into something new, but to cater for, a low carbon future. And it is key, because if you look at, we don't just say decarbonization because it sounds good and that it feels good in the tummy, but because it actually is changing the business model. And we see that because we see finance being tied now to reducing your emission. And as we just talked about, as a ship owner, you want to be low cost. So if you don't have a competitive finance and low capital cost, then you're not a ship owner for long. So that's one area, right? And then we see it, of course, on the customers now as well. I actually have a mail right now on my desk from one of our very big clients that we have contracts with, asking for emission data for specific voyages to understand, or even back in time, to understand what was our footprint and how can we work with that. Meaning that if you don't reduce your emissions in Golden Ocean, then you will not become your preferred customer in the future, because our emissions go into, the mining companies or our customers' CO2 footprint. So this is another thing. It's the finance, and it is customers, and then of course it's employees that would like to see that we have some visions around this. And then finally you have You have, of course, the investors, as we just talked about, also asking questions. So that is why you want to take this serious, and you have to address it properly and and have a very clear strategy. It is simply because it is going to define your business model in the future.